stream to start here. All right. Welcome everyone. I know there's no viewers right now, but welcome back to Open Studio Design Session. Today's not Friday, but I am doing an extra session this week to make up for lost time last week, which was due to just celebrating the Lunar New Year with my family. So I had to call off the stream last week, but we're back this week, and we've made some progress yesterday, mostly designing some of the logo types and decals and graphics that are going on these vertical stabilizers that we've made. So if you're new here, again, to give an update, the last stream I did before yesterday was 2 weeks ago, and I've made some progress since then. I've made these vertical stabilizers here, first of all, which are compared to what we made on the first. These new vertical stabilizers are a little bit smaller, and they have the graphic. So these are pretty much ready to be integrated, but I reduced the size a little bit, and that's pretty much it for the vertical stabilizers. And as for the actual aircraft, I've made some updates since the first. In case you're just stopping by, viewing the stream here, this is the state of the undercarriage here. You'll notice that there's a lot of paneling detail that wasn't there before, that I've kind of just slowly added over the past couple of weeks. So this is looking quite nice. It's almost complete. I would say this is probably 95-98% complete here. What we really need to do at this point right now in this project for the M1 is to really integrate the vertical stabilizers, which are here. So the reason why we're going with these and not the ones that I originally made on the first is that these are a little bit more proportional to the rest of the aircraft, right? So if you look at it from the side here, you'll notice that the stabilizers are proportional to the rest of the aircraft, right? So it's just a slight adjustment. In terms of area, this is reduced, but since it's being mounted off the wing, behind the wing like that, I have a feeling it's going to be more than effective, especially since we have two of them. So this is going to be good. So yeah, today the goal is to try and integrate one of these or both of these vertical stabilizers into the kind of straw structure that we designed for, right? So if we take a look inside the sketchbook here that I have, where I sketch and draw out my ideas for these designs, we have kind of a illustration here of how it's going to be integrated, right? So this is kind of what we've done so far. We've had the straw, being wrapped around the double layer of cardstock here. So this is the initial sketch from a while ago. I don't really have a date on this. And some other miscellaneous sketches, some aircraft structures, sketches here, mechanism sketches. But what we're really interested is this sketch right here, which kind of shows the idea that we are going to try and pursue to make this a reality here. So let me see here. Let me just grab my tools real quick. Scissors, pencil, and aluminum ruler. Okay, so you use pencil here. So this is kind of the idea, right? So you want to have a straw that kind of is a half cut, right? So you have a cross section here where the top is open, right? So it's kind of like that, and the vertical stabilizer is kind of slotted in there, right? Something like that. But we want to try and make that today, and hopefully this will be enough structure to keep it really resilient, and we'll have to integrate that onto the actual airplane fuselage here. So the first step is really to get the straw attached to the vertical stabilizers. I'm trying to make a lot of progress today because yesterday was kind of we're settling in, we're getting back into the groove of things, and we were talking about graphic design and how aircraft decals markings are applied, right? And we kind of took inspiration from that and gave these two vertical stabilizers on the right and the left here, on the left and the right here, the Astra M1, kind of decal here. And the way we did this was we, applied tape onto a sheet of white paper, and you could see the past stream to see the exact details of how we got these to be. But this is very clean. This was not drawn on the actual part itself. This was drawn on a separate piece of tape, and then the tape was aligned and then applied. So there's a whole series of steps there, and we basically spent the last stream on Friday making this, and I think it should be all good for now. It looks pretty clean. I kind of like it. It's very simple, and I'm excited to see it on the actual final aircraft here. So sorry here, I just gotta unzip this. It's getting a little toasty. But I hate like zippers that don't work. Anyways, have coffee off to the side, so I'm caffeinated today. Hopefully we can get a lot of stuff done. I think these were pre-cut like several sessions ago, but these should be long enough. I think the intent was that this tip would be on the fuselage because you want a sharp taper for the kind of integration there. So let me just show, I guess I can show you guys kind of a side profile sketch here real quick. Let me try and find a photo here. It's within my file structure here for the M1 prototype. So I think this is the side sketch that you guys have seen. Hold on, let me just make this larger. Yeah, and then I'll just share my right monitor desktop here. This is kind of what we're looking at, right? So this is the Astra prototype design, M1 prototype, right? So what we're really trying to model today is this kind of structure where the vertical stabilizer is integrated with the straw, and the straw is mounted on the fuselage itself, and everything is a very clean integration here. So vertical stabilizer is not exactly like this. It's a little bit more, I guess, less swept back, but it's kind of the same idea. The vague geometry here. Tail here splits off. I think this is a little bit different. This goes all the way down here instead. So the straw will have to kind of taper down here to have some clean lines there. But this is kind of the sketch that we want to base our design off of, right? And we want to try and build this tail structure here with the straw and the vertical stabilizer. So that's really the intent today, to finish those two. It shouldn't take too long, hopefully. It shouldn't take the full 2.5 hours or whatever. But once this is done, we can start cutting away at the fuselage to make way for this tight integration. So this will hopefully be very sturdy. So like when you crash your aircraft and you hit your back here on the vertical stabilizer, hopefully it doesn't rip off, right? So that's kind of the design intent, is to have it be pretty resilient in these situations and smoothly blend it into the rest of the aircraft. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what we want to try and do. So we're back here, top-down view here. This is what we have right now so far. So this is going to be mounted probably somewhere like here, I believe. So this, I think what we're going to do is yeah, actually this is the right stabilizer. We want the left one here. So we want to try and, you know, match it to this length here and keep it mostly off the fuselage and wing. Right, so let's move this down a little bit here. So we might have to cut this to taper it down to make it look better, because if you have a square kind of component here and you have a slanted edge here, it's not very clean, so you might as well chop that and make it blend into that little corner there. Or you could just cut it like that and then have the whole thing end, you know, at kind of at the end of that gray border there. But I think, you know, cutting it like that makes it look a little cleaner, right? Gives it some arrow lines of sorts, makes it look a little bit sleeker. So we're gonna try and do that. We're gonna have to try, the hardest part about this is trying to do it consistently for both sides. That's by far the probably most difficult thing, because you're cutting this straw, which is a three-dimensional object, but you're, you know, trying to do it in what, like 2 dimensions, right? So I'm trying to make a cut. So let's see here. I just kind of want to see what it looks like from the side really quick here, just to have a rough idea of the proportions involved and where the slant structure is going to reside. So this is kind of what it looks like. Right, so it's going to be mounted here, and the fairing in the front can be extended a little bit. I think this might be a little bit short. I'm not really sure yet. I don't know if this is enough anchor space to kind of secure everything down in place. If it's not, I do have another long straw here, this orange straw that can help us, but hopefully won't need to use that. Can even, you know, have it be half mounted. It doesn't have to be all the way back there. It can be a partial half cut, and we could have a lot of the tail surface actually stick out the back. So I think that's kind of what we're gonna do. And for alignment, I think I'm going to align, you know, the top line here is kind of where that cut was oriented, and I think we're going to do that here. So this will be kind of on its side when it's mounted on the actual aircraft, but we're going to build a fairing over it, so hopefully that'll kind of smooth things out, so it won't look as jarring. So what we're going to do, we're probably just going to start cutting away at this. Want to kind of get an angle like that from top to bottom. Probably, okay, so first of all, we do need to try and match the length here. So this, I know this is like kind of sketchy. This is not very a precise way of doing things, but you have to trim that down so that they both match in height. They keep everything uniform, keep both sides symmetric to each other. That's kind of the goal here. A comment, Lockheed Martin, take notes. Oh man, I wish. Yeah, they're true professionals. They're at Lockheed Martin. This is kind of like a hobby of sorts, so this is not very professional, but we'll make do and try and create something great. Yeah, I think that's about where we want to have the taper. I'm just trying to look at this really quick here. So I'm trying to decide how far back to go. Like 1.5 centimeters would yield a kind of slant like that. I think that's doable. 1 would yield a steeper cut off. So I'm not sure. This is kind of not very mathematical, right? This is kind of going off of feel. So that says doing something shallower would make a nicer, cleaner transition here. So I probably am going to do that. So I do have a marker here that I can use. I'll try and mark out 1.5 centimeters. Okay. Just do the same thing on the other part there. And this is eyeballed. This isn't a direct measurement, but we're using a quick method to transfer the same markings over just by eyeballing that. So the markings aren't exactly 100 degrees apart from each other, or 180 degrees apart from each other. So you'll notice that the center line is a little off to the side when I fold this flat. That's just kind of how it is, I suppose. So I will cut from this bottom corner here to that top marking. So that hopefully creates this nice taper. Yeah, that looks good. This is the aft. I do want to mark that, so this is the back part. I'll just put a dot here. Because if you don't, then it's hard to distinguish which one is actually the back side, right? So I marked a little dot in the middle there. Okay. Now the question is, how far do we need to cut to get that, half cut? So the question is, where do we want to slide this, right? So this is, again, it's not necessarily a structural thing, because if that were the case, then we would put it all the way in like that. But I think I'm more pressed by aesthetic concerns, but I think this actually looks kind of nice because the two lines, this chamfer here and this gray cardstock, all meet at the corner. So I think that looks nice. So I need to measure where that leads the cut. So how much do we need to cut? I believe that's right about here. Okay, so I made a very slight marking, but I can kind of mark it out here. So I need to cut down the middle from back to front up until that point, and just transfer that information over to the other piece that we're working with here. Okay, so we can actually cut this other piece as well, because we didn't make the marking. Okay, that's a pretty good cut. This is the back side here. I'll make the little mark. Okay, so this is the back. This is where we want to cut. So we're gonna just go for it. I think I have enough straw to do this. It's just I would like to not make mistakes, but at some point we do have to start committing. I think that looks pretty good. Looks pretty clean. One thing I will note is that this is not very aligned. This cut is a little bit slanted. I'm not sure if I can reproduce that. Let's see here. I'll put this here. So what we want to do, align our scissor here. Just aim straight down. Yeah, this one is also kind of slanted. I'm worried that the slight slant will have effects on yaw performance, because if it's slightly angled differently, then you might actually cause your plane to go in a certain direction. But overall, I think this is pretty good for what it is. This is the right vertical stabilizer, and this is, oh shoot, wrong side. Yeah, this is the left vertical stabilizer. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Yeah, it goes to the end there. I think to make the transition more structurally sound, I'm going to compress these plastic pieces of the straw. I'm going to press it flat and tape it down, hopefully. Now, the only thing here is that it's not very straight, so we're going to try and mark out place to cut so that we can make an adjustment. This is kind of sketchy. It's not a very straightforward method, but it gets the job done mostly. Don't worry about this if it doesn't look great. Probably going to build over it as well to get it to be a very clean look. You might use a cardstock or something. But overall, this looks very nice. So you notice that like this vertical stabilizer is quad layer. There are 4 layers of cardstock. And at the leading edge, up until the halfway point, there is a black straw. This is a smaller diameter straw. This gives it a little bit of thickness in the front, and it tapers off to the back here. But this is quite thick at the base, right? So if you look here, it kind of just tapers up like that. It becomes thin at the tip, right? So this straw, the fact that it wraps around this structure, it kind of compresses that thickness down a little bit. And also it hides the very thick root inside the structure. So I think it just overall looks very clean, very aerodynamic. It's also structurally a kind of interesting, novel idea you can test out. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that. I do want to make sure that we reinforce this front edge here. So I'll explain what I'm going to do with that. But first, I do make the same adjustments here on this side. Draw a straight line dot here. This is the difficult part. It's the actual cutting. Because it's a mirror part, I'm right-handed, so I need to hold it a certain way, but it's also harder to cut that way. I need to hold it like this to cut it, but I'm not sure that's good. Okay, so I think I need to extend this cut a little bit. There's slight adjustments here and there that kind of add up to a cleaner end product here. So this is kind of a straighter line. It's not perfect by any means, but see that? That's kind of straighter. So it's looking good. It's looking really good. This plastic also serves to protect the underside of the vertical stabilizer from impact, because it's going to be at the tail end of the aircraft, so this will help shield it. Cardstock is a little bit weaker compared to plastic, so it tends to rip more easily than plastic does. So we're taking advantage of certain material properties to reinforce certain areas. So I say it's not very structural, but it ends up being that way. And I don't want things to break. So this fits in here in this little slot, right? So that's looking good. But before we tape everything in there, I'm gonna take a sip of coffee first of all. Gotta stay caffeinated. But also I need to tape the front here. So you see where this dot is? I'm going to tape everything to the front of that dot, right? So this is the aft end of the aircraft. I gotta tape this. And the reason for that is to prevent kind of this crack, this little high stress area from splitting the material all the way through, right? Because if you imagine, this is like if you have like a sheet of paper, right, with a cut in it, it's easier to rip it apart because there is a crack. I can actually demonstrate this. Let me just grab a sheet real quick here. All right, so ignore the sketches and drawings and whatnot here, but I'm trying to provide you a very basic overview, crash course into structural kind of science, mechanical structures, right? So if you have a piece of paper like this, we call this kind of a coupon, right? So it's like kind of a test piece, but you know, it usually is metal because, you know, where I work, you know, jet engines and all of that. But imagine like pulling on this, right? This is really strong, right? Like this is not going to budge that easily. But that's not what we have here, right? So if you imagine like the sides here, right? If we're pulling apart like that, this rip, this little corner here is a high stress area because you're applying the same amount of force, but there's no material here to support it. So all the force gets, you know, transferred to this section instead of all of this section. So this is a high stress area. So if I actually cut this sheet of paper here and pull, you'll notice that this doesn't really handle all that much force. It's a lot easier to rip it apart. That's why we need to reinforce this area with tape, right? So cellophane tape is not plastic, I learned a while ago, but it is very resistant. If it doesn't have any small cuts in it, it's very resistant to tearing. So we're going to apply a layer here to prevent this plastic from tearing all the way through here. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that. So these sharp areas, these sharp corners and cuts, they're high stress locations, right? When you have any sort of applied force, this is such a tight curvature, right? It's going to amplify your stresses. So it's kind of hard to explain, it's kind of abstract, but hopefully you guys got something out of that. It's kind of like mechanical engineering, mechanics of materials, kind of basic concepts, right? So you don't want these locations to budge. So I'm going to do the same for the other piece here. This is, small details that are very impactful. So over time, you might have a length increase of this cut, and so your vertical stabilizer might shift around a little bit, even though it's taped. But you want to make sure that doesn't happen. So, you design for redundancy, you design for safety. So you reinforce the front edge here, so you prevent it from splitting more. So this is kind of what we're doing here. This makes it a little bit harder to split, right? This isn't going to prevent it, but it'll be harder to completely tear this through with an adhesive, kind of polymer layer of cellulose, right? So cellophane is like a lot of cellulose fibers, like, it's kind of a polymer, but it's really strong, right? So tape, if you try and pull it, if it doesn't have any cuts in it, it's very, very strong in tensile strength. So that's good. That's good. And this is the right stabilizer, or left stabilizer that we have right here. Looks decent. So I think I'm ready to tape this down. Let's see here, just do a test fit real quick to see how this does. This side is a little rough. I'm gonna try and fix that real quick. This is kind of how it slides in. Okay, so there's a little bit extra back here. We could trim that off. It's not a huge deal necessarily. Might have to make some adjustments, but overall it's looking good. So for this side, I'm going to grab a length of tape. I'm going to squish this flat, right? So this is aligned like this. Oops, sorry about that. Butterfingers. So I'm going to put it at the bottom here. Left edge of the tape, kind of attaching to this sharp bend here, and sliding it into place, making sure it's aligned, and then pressing this in. This isn't complete, so you gotta try and be careful here, but also you want to clean up some of the excess. So this is going to be interesting. There we go. It's a very clean integration. I love that. And that's only one side. We do need to do the same for the other side here. So I'm just grab a length of tape. And, same concept, right? Just one edge, take it easy, align it. And it's looking good. Just lay it down like that, and make sure that this is wrapped. So you don't want it to stick too early. You want to compress the orange bit. That's a good bond there. And for this, we are just going to cut that. And it looks good. It's a very clean structure. Look at that. It's aligned along the center. And this whole thing right here kind of tapers down, right? I don't know if you guys can see that. It just reduces to the thickness of the actual trailing edge here. So I think it's a very beautiful detail, right? It's very structurally sound, and it's also quite sleek and aerodynamic. And then this is going to be mounted eventually to this, right? So that's kind of the idea here. So it's looking good. It's looking good. You just got to do the same for the other side here. There is a tiny bit of excess at the tail end, which we can simply trim off to keep a uniform look. But it's also functional because eventually we're going to cut this top edge of this white section here so we can have actual movable rudders if we need to adjust it for yaw. Well, hopefully we don't need to, but you do need the control surface there and available in case you do want to make some slight adjustments, right? So I think it looks nice. This is pretty clean, and it likes to pop out, but you crush it in, secure the adhesive onto the surface. But yeah, this is very elegant way to get kind of a tail boom structure, vertical surface structure. This is very structurally sound. Now we just need a very good way of attaching this front to the fuselage, and then these should be very stiff and all set to go. Yeah, so this is looking good. You just need a length of tape here. Again, just I like to put it next to the tape dispenser so I can get a better, closer length to what I need. Just turn this here back. Right, just do that. Oh, that's not good. All right, so the surface itself moved a little bit, so we want to realign it. hold the tape back before securing it. Back there is looking good. Now we're just cleaning up this leading edge here, as usual. This idea kind of started with one of the rapid prototypes that I made. I think it was like 004, which I think I released a video last month in January for it. So please reference that. It's kind of the same tail structure, except that one was with a thin diameter straw, not a orange straw like this. And the structure was a lot less reinforced because it was supposed to be lightweight. And not that, durable, but this is like a flagship kind of project, the M1 Astra prototype. So for me, this means a lot. This is like, I put all my creative efforts into these flagship designs, the YX series. These are original designs. I kind of just put my heart and soul into it, versus the rapid prototype series where I just give myself a little bit more permission to do things. I just tend to be a little bit more creative. So if there are any audio issues for the stream or video quality issues, let me know. I can restart the stream, but I just want to make sure the video quality is decent. I did change the settings a little bit for OBS, but hopefully it's not too terrible. I increased the bit rate a little bit, so we're just going to secure this, right? So this is, compress this down in. Get it tight like that. The same thing here. And I'm just going to trim this leading edge here, the excess off. Just keep the trash to this side here. This is looking good. There's a little bit of excess at the tail end, and we'll just trim that off, and it'll look very uniform, very clean. So that's good. That's looking very good. Look at that. Very clean, very minimal design. Little graphic there. It's going to look great on the actual aircraft. So this is what we've come up with so far. I think we do need to reinforce this surface a little bit more to kind of waterproof it, or weatherproof it, and allow it to be able to survive in slightly wet or moist conditions. So we're just going to layer another piece of tape here onto this surface. The tail surface is already covered, so I'm try and go ahead a little bit with the white areas here. So for this, I'm just gonna clean this up a little bit. By, folding it along that edge, and then kind of just sliding the knife underneath. Just gonna trim it down, make it clean, right? Try and reduce, too much tape is, it can get messy, right? just also cut this front here. So we will reinforce the leading edge, but we'll do it with a separate piece of tape. This is looking good. Oof. I'm struggling a little bit. Sticky side down. Shoot. Alright. Take this. There's a little region here that I do need tape in. So we're going to reuse this. I'm going to reuse this piece of tape here. It's the same idea. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Fold it down along this gray border here, right? And then just trim it off like that. The trick is to not use any extreme force to cut. Just kind of let it slide through. That's the best kind of cut when you can, like when you cut with scissors and, you're cutting a piece of paper and it just slides through. That's the kind of cut that you want to have. And usually that requires a very shallow angle. So if I cut like this, like perpendicular to the material, that's not going to go through really easily. It might go through, but it might cause like a bunch of crumples and, things like that. So to actually cutting is like you're using sheer force to separate the material from each other, right? So you need to do it at kind of a very shallow angle. And so I don't want to cut it here because there is kind of a boundary there with the gray. So I'm going to cut from this side here. In theory, you should also be cutting, away from yourself, which I'm doing right now. Sometimes I don't really like doing that. If I can control it, I actually find it more comfortable to cut towards me. So I'm just going to line it like this. You don't want to apply too much force on your cutting hand. All right, so this is like stuck. You don't want to like do that. You kind of want to move the piece into it so that you don't stab yourself like that. Just kind of thinking that goes on in my brain when I cut things. Looks good. And we do want to reinforce the leading edge, smooth it out. So I'm going to get a length of tape equal to that. I think I'm going to use half a piece of tape for this. You don't really need the full width. This is again a standard roll of Scotch tape, so this should be like 3/4 of an inch. Pretty close to I think it's like 2 centimeters, I want to say. Half is about 1, so yeah, you can't really convert units like that. It doesn't work that cleanly, but do approximate measurements like that. Let's say, okay, well that's approximately this long. Oh shoot, that's not very aligned. This is why it's probably better to place it down like that. And try and get this. You need to cut the front lip a little bit to enable the fold. Yeah, that's not really cutting right now because I don't think it's secure. It's struggling a little bit, but I'll just try and fold this as tightly as we can. Smooth out some of the wrinkles here. It's not going to be perfect, but it's a high bar to get it to be perfect. But that reinforces the leading edge, covers it. So I think that looks good. All right. So we'll try and do the same thing here. There is a patch of bare cardstock that we want to cover. So kind of just do that. And try not to have too much overlap with the white areas there. I'm just going to do that. Actually, let me align it more parallel to the edge here. There we go. It's looking all right. There's a little triangular area there because it's not a perfect fit, but ooh, that's kind of dangerous. All right, just slide, shallow angle, right? Clean cut. Take the excess, apply it to the other side. Save a little bit of tape here. That's okay, that looks good. And then I'll just slide this through. Trim that off. That's looking good. Very clean. Pretty much all set to go for this process here of reinforcing the leading edge. Did it slightly differently for this side. I've placed the start right at the corner, that way it has an easier time coming over. The top isn't great. Let's try this again. Just need to peel this off. There's a little bit of wrinkling happening here. I think that might be happening because the thickness does vary a little bit. Right, it's thicker at the bottom, thinner at the top. So it's hard to get it to be completely flat all the time. Yeah, have some comments coming in. Is the Astra a UAV or does it have a cockpit? So this is, I guess, kind of an original design, right? It's mostly supposed to be a glider, so it's not really like a model of a real life design or anything, but in that sense it's unmanned, right? But I don't know, you could use your imagination. It could be manned or unmanned. It doesn't really, that's not really a question that I kind of ask, because this is well, obviously it's not going to fit a person in there. But you can imagine, I guess it's unmanned, I guess. But I don't know. Happy Friday. Yeah, it's not Friday, but I'm making up a session from a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So I think these are looking nice. I'll take my vest off real quick. It's getting a little toasty. Take a sip. Okay. So we're right about at an hour in. We've built these two parts, and I think we're ready now to integrate it with the fuselage here. And that's really going to be the last major airframe step. So I don't know how I'm going to approach this, but I'm just going to kind of go and try something, I guess. So I think what we need to do is, well, we can't put it really on the wing, I suppose. I mean, I guess we could. It just wasn't the original plan. That's a little bit further out than I intended it to be. So let me just change the angle real quick here so you guys can see better. So that's kind of what it looks like outboard. I guess it's doable. There's not a lot of adjustments to the fuselage that we need to make to do that. Right, so that's kind of, where it is right now. But you can also mount it, if we look from above again, if we mount it inside with the outer edge flush with the outer edge of the fuselage, that's more structurally sound, because if you look at the actual layers of this aircraft, you'll notice that the fuselage really ends here at this line. That's where the kind of cardboard reinforcement underneath goes up until. So if we mount the vertical stabilizers on the wing, I guess that's a little less reinforced. But also, I have thought about this, and I do want to keep it aligned with kind of the nacelle area here. So you have this inline kind of thickness in structure, so it's not like separated. So that would look a little strange, I think. So it'll look better like that rather than like that. Right, so that looks a little strange, so we want to keep it inboard. And to be able to do that, we do need to make a slight cut into the fuselage, which I'm a little bit nervous about doing, because this is it's a work in progress, but I guess we'll get over it. We'll work on it. Do you mark out like where to cut it so that we can mount these vertical stabilizers inside? Not inside, I mean like, flush, right? So we want it to be flat with the fuselage, so we don't want it to be angled based on this fuselage panel curve, right? Because it's at a slope right now. We mount it, it's going to be weirdly attached. So if you do want to try and get this, so I think for this we're going to build a template and then try and cut it out. It could be rectangular, I guess, or it could be kind of slanted. That's actually almost what we need. That's kind of amazing. We're just gonna use that there, and I think there. That's not very clear. I do need to get rid of some of this so that I can see where I'm gonna be marking things. Okay, so this is gonna fit here. How much? I have no idea. I guess we could take a look here. We want the front edge here of this vertical stabilizer to match where this is. So, where the trailing edge of the wing comes into the thing. That's kind of where the tip of the thing goes. Where's the thickness? The thickness comes in this much, so we do need to mark that out. So I think we can actually use a ruler for this, maybe. It's a little strange to be working on the fuselage again after all this time, but you can eyeball like a length straight to that. Looks good. And so what we need is a template along that. Would be easier to tape it and mark out what we need. But this is doable. That's about it. Corner right there. I'm just gonna trim this quick. It's kind of the shape that we need to cut out. This is not an actual part. This is just a kind of general visualizing tool here. It's going to help us mark down what we need to cut out. And let's see, does this align with the trailing edge here? Mostly. Probably need to make a slight cut here. Or we could, better yet, actually measuring this out will probably yield a better result. So this is about 1 centimeter. 1 by, let's see how long this is. It's about 4.4, 4.5. Yeah, it's about 4.5. So 1 by 4.5, but it's not a rectangle. It's more of like an oblique shape. It's like a trapezoid shape. So need to measure in. We got 1 centimeter here. And, oh, okay, actually this camera is kind of in the way. Let's move it down a little bit. All right, there we go. You guys can see better. And 4.5 going in. It should be about where this little piece ends. Yes, and there. Kind of trace down like that. Actually measure where this goes. Tennessee Court says, "Great look on the plane. Thanks, appreciate it." This is 3 centimeters here, so literally trying to replicate what we have on the other side with this. I do need to make these cuts, but it's gonna be a little bit tricky because this is already kind of sealed in. So I don't want to damage the wing structure or anything too severely. I think we can at least make a cut here. This is like a surgical move. Gotta be precise. Don't want to. Ooh, that's not good. Yeah. It's not the best way to install vertical stabilizers. What I've done in the past was mostly just like legit just like fold a piece of the vertical stabilizer and then tape that on to the fuselage and rely on the fold to keep it up, which isn't very reliable, but kind of making do with this. Alright, so I do need to like kind of trim this edge in. It's kind of hard to get at from an oblique kind of angle. So we're kind of trusting that our knife is helping us here. Slide our scissors in and make that initial front cut. That's the easiest part to get at right now. And actually, let's see if we can fold this up because the back trailing edge should be separated already. So we should be able to like slide a ruler in, kind of fold it up. Probably do need another ruler for this. Let's see here. So this is going to be kind of hard. I wish I had another one of these because this is pretty maneuverable because it's not like full length ruler. I would like a straight edge on the other side, but unfortunately I only have 2 hands. So ideally this is what we would be doing. Just kind of pinching this surface down And there we go. That kind of did the job, I want to say, but not really, probably. So I'm going to have to kind of rely on our eyeballs here. And maybe we could crease it like that. 2 points determine a line, unless they're coincident. Okay, so that kind of surface is lifted up a little bit. So this is kind of how the stabilizer is going to be mounted, right? I wonder if we can actually keep this little tab the way it is there, because it might help us in building kind of a surface over this whole thing. Or if we could just cut it off, I guess. But in any case, we do need to do the same things to the other side here really quick. There we go. And oh yeah, this back edge is like really tough to cut through. I'll be very careful not to cut yourself, or at least I'm cutting myself. Hopefully I don't cut myself on camera. That would suck. Yeah, there we go. And then same approach. Move the knife a little bit. Just lift this edge up a little bit. Oh wait, I'm gonna cut it. Tricked myself to believing I already made this cut. Okay, there we go. Now, I should be able to slide this underneath. And oh, see the back here. Oh, yep, the back is good. Get a really nice crease going there. And do the same on this side. Kind of separated that. And I think we might just do a clean cut, because that'll be the least amount of interference with the process of mounting one of these surfaces on there. So or you can just fold it back, I guess. That seems to do the trick as well. It just needs to not interfere with the process of installing the surfaces. Actually, I think I might just cut it off, because I think we're gonna resurface the entire. This is gonna be like some sort of fairing here for the vertical stabilizer. So I'm gonna cut this and release the area for modification. Nothing in the way. Should be able to attach it flat and securely. Now I'm wondering how I can attach these vertical stabilizers at a consistent angle on each side. Because right now we could just, I guess eyeball it, but I would like to not have to eyeball things to get it to fit into place. Trying to come up with some ideas. Interesting. I'm not sure. Let's see here, just do some minor adjustments to the panels. Or not. I'm really trying to think my way through this. Don't really know how to do this, or what angle I want. This kind of an angle is okay. This is like, maybe like 60 degrees from horizontal on the outside. This is more extreme. I'm gonna have less vertical area, right? Something like that. So it's a question of how do we secure the location of that. I guess we could like stick something through it, but I would like to not have to do that. This cutting mat does have a 60-degree angle marker, so I might do a quick from the side here, and then on the side. You want these two dots to be horizontal for it to be at a 60-degree angle. This is going to be hard to transfer over. I want it to be like this, also 60 degrees. So kind of match the general. Sorry, this is boring. So just trying to figure out a way to mount these. I think we might have to just use tape and secure it in place, but that's not a very mechanically sound way to do this. Just trying to think right now. Okay, actually, I'm probably going to seal this. Ooh, that's not good. Right, yeah, I'm going to seal these edges here. They are bothering me a little bit, so I'm just going to close them up. Quick approximation. Oh, sorry about that. Can you bend a paper clip at the desired angle to mount the vertical stabilizers? Yes, I was thinking about that, but there really is no way to ensure that your paper clip doesn't rotate inside the straw. And at this point, it's already a little late. I can't really think of a good way to like integrate that unless it like comes in from the stabilizer like that, and then in that case we would need like another type of panel or fairing to mount that, which honestly I don't know if that's worth the effort necessarily. It's definitely doable. I will say it's just a little extra work. I'm thinking about it. It is kind of possible, I guess. It's just this round edge here that's going to be in the way. It's going to have to compress down. It might not be all smooth and nice anymore after that. So for now, let me just finish sealing this up a little bit. Go. Kind of, maybe. I'm gonna trim the excess off of this. Okay, so it looks like the fairing is getting in the way, the bottom landing gear fairing. That's an interesting problem to have. Let's clean the other side first then. To clean this up. In the future, we might use the paperclip idea, but right now it's a little late to integrate that. Just checking the stream right now. If there are any quality issues, do let me know. But it needs to be like deeply integrated into the structure. So I imagine like a line coming here, right? So it's like a loop there internally inside the layers, and then it comes out at the bottom and then has a little flat area. So that's like kind of a structural way to define 60 degrees or whatever degrees you want. I think that would be the best way to do this, but at this point it's already a little late for that, unless we take this stabilizer apart, which I am not willing to do at this point. But yeah, that was a good suggestion. I definitely will look into doing that. I think it's possible, because what you can do is you can take the paperclip and have it stretch out internally the cross section of a straw, so it'll flatten it right near the top. So the black internal straw that's used for thickness can be flattened at the top, reinforced with steel wire that comes down like that to the bottom and then comes out, and then you can define a little flat surface area here to mount everything. But unfortunately, we're already past that stage, so we can't necessarily do that at this point. So we need to figure out a way to mount this as is. Yeah. It just is the way it is, I suppose. Yeah, we're just gonna have to try and eyeball this. This is not gonna be very reliable. It's not gonna be like, top-notch mechanical engineering. This piece is actually probably gonna be the weakest bit of the aircraft, if any impact does happen. Just the way it's designed. So we're gonna try and do this. If it works, we're gonna reinforce the heck out of it once we adjust the angle to where we want it to be. And then, I don't know, after that, it's just going to this is highly sketch. I would not recommend doing this. I would recommend the paperclip method that Benjamin Rogers mentioned. It's just you need to have a little bit more foresight when you want to do it that way. Yeet. I am struggling right now with trying to keep this kind of at a proper angle here. Is that kind of flat, the black dots? Sorry, this is off camera. I'm just trying to align this stabilizer a little bit better. Here. I think that does it. It's like mostly there. Again, this is kind of like eyeballing, so I would not recommend doing this too often, but this is not a very great way to like attach things, especially since I've done so much consideration for everything else in this design. It's just, at this point, I think we're just gonna go with the flow here, and if it works, then you know, that's great, that's wonderful. There's no mechanical stop from it, you know, rotating, unless you're relying on the tape alone, I guess, is kind of my point. So this is kind of sketchy. But what else are you gonna do, you know? This is kind of it. We're in the end game here. This is where this hobby becomes sort of an art, right? So it's a science up until a certain point, but things that are handcrafted are gonna have that human element to them. And this is one of those instances where, you know, we're making a conscious decision to handcraft this, to secure this angle in place, how it's oriented, right? So just gonna double layer this to make it more secure here. This is interesting for sure. And try and do the same thing on the other side here. We're at 1.5 hours. We are making good progress today. It's nerve-wracking. think that's about where we want it to be. It's not very good. I mean, it's aligned, yes, but this tape is just way too out there. It needs to be closer in. Also checking alignment. Sorry, just taking a look real quick. Okay, I think that's mostly in place. That those dots are horizontal, which is good. But now we have to reinforce it a little bit more. Layer. I'm running out of tape. Let me just go grab another roll real quick. Be right back. Okay. Sorry about that. Just looks pretty good from this angle. It might not look symmetrical in the camera view, but to me, I think in person it looks almost correct. Might need to increase this angle a little bit. This will be useful because we're almost running out. That's not good. Okay, so what happened was we taped it a little too hard on this side, and sorry about that, you guys can't really see. Let me just change to a different perspective real quick. But yeah, we taped it a little too hard, and I guess it just align that, and so this is why this is not a very reliable way to mount vertical stabilizers, but Sometimes you just have to make do. Okay, that looks decent. You guys see that? That's a different angle there. It's kind of what it looks like right now. It might look a little weird. Doesn't really reflect it in real life, but that's because of the lens distortion. So it's hard to convey what it really looks like, but I think it looks decent. It looks a little taller in this view, right? So it's a little tall. But if we go to the top down and show you with a 28mm lens, it looks a little bit better. Still, it's gonna look different in person than, you know, what you see. So I think all things considered, we're doing all right. Not too bad. Okay, so what we're gonna do is apply the second layer here, which will hopefully really secure it in place. Make sure the tape drops straight down. And that way we can have a very secure surface, which we can have the tape. Okay, so now we're just reinforcing that second layer. Just inspecting it for alignment. Okay, looks good. I just have to do the inside here. Sorry, I'm not very focused right now. I'm kind of distracted. A different angle so we can look at it. These are a little bit tall, even after I cut them down in size. But this is kind of what it looks like on the aircraft. I think it looks decent it's definitely going to be functional, I think. Probably could reduce the angle so that they're not so tall. Adjust the angle slightly. Sorry, I'm just looking at it right here. That looks decent. Okay, yeah. All things considered, I think it looks good. It's just gonna take some getting used to because I've seen this design for so long without a vertical stabilizer at all. So it looks weird to me right now, but I think if you give it enough time, it'll start to look a little bit better. Right, so this looks a little strange right now, but I think it's coming along quite nicely. Definitely looks very clean to me. Right, so that vertical stabilizer is right there. And yeah, it looks very nice. It's gonna take some getting used to, but I think it'll settle in nicely. Again, we're gonna have to do some paneling work here, just I guess building up a fairing to protect this from being adjusted in any unintentional way. I'll have to cut the excess off the trailing edge here, but we should be almost done here. I've been only live for 1 hour and 48 minutes. That doesn't seem right, but all right. It seems longer than that. We just made a lot of progress today, I guess. More focus than yesterday. But we can use the remaining time to build up a fairing around the these two mounts, because these are kind of like booms that stick back and kind of support the vertical stabilizer structure. Right? So I don't know, like if you pinch the tape fillet on one side here, it kind of just like rotates the whole thing. So that's kind of how I'm adjusting it. It's not a very reliable method. I wouldn't recommend using this mount method. Again, like Benjamin Rogers said in the chat a while ago, I would follow his advice and use, a paper clip to actually securely define the angle that you want it at, and then attach it to the fuselage. But we were at a point where that was a little bit too late. Like we already integrated the vertical stabilizer, so unless we wanted to rework and spend another stream redesigning the vertical stabilizers, then this is the quickest way to attach it, and I think for the most part it should be pretty good. Actually, so now that I'm testing it, so actually let's switch to the side camera here. It's actually interesting how the vertical stabilizers interface with the rest of the aircraft, right? So this integration is quite unexpected. I thought the vertical stabilizers in the back would actually hit the ground first, but it looks like this actuator knob right here, this actuator knob for the canards is actually touching the ground first. So that was not expected, but it does kind of protect the vertical stabilizers a little bit better. So between this knob and the wingtip, the vertical stabilizers are kind of protected in a way. So we got kind of lucky there. We don't really need too much, I guess, reinforcement for the actual structure, but it's always good to have that, especially for something this flight critical. It's just I did not design for this. I kind of forgot about it, so next time I will integrate some paper clips. So right now, let's build the remaining kind of fairing here structure. I just want to cover this up. This looks kind of messy, right? So we want to make it look uniform, make it look nice, and that's what this is going to be for. Do probably need some printer paper here to be able to create some templates to cut. So I think this should be good enough of a template. There's a lot of sketches on there, but it's like not very useful anymore because I already cut like everywhere else. This is like reuse of paper, unwanted sketches, I guess. I don't know if that made any sense, but I'm gonna try and just cut off this section here so that we can fit it around certain shapes and test out certain ideas. So this is what we have. Oh yeah, I forgot to clean off the trailing edge. Shoot, let me do that real quick. Sorry about that. Totally forgot. I guess I remembered before I conducted like a flight test or something. That would be tragic, just having like an extra surface here hanging off your plane. Yeah, that's kind of stuck. It's kind of like jammed up in there. We'll definitely clean that up, but just for now, I just need to get rid of that little piece there. What this kind of reminds me of? This reminds me of the HiMat, the Rockwell experimental. I think it was a subscale RC unmanned aerial vehicle. I think the intent of that was to test out technologies for future fighter designs, especially the canard configuration. I mean, I could like show a picture, I suppose. Let's see here. New window. Let's see. Switch to desktop right. We just gotta search HiMat. Rockwell HiMat. Yes. So this is kind of what it reminds me of. Here's a overview drawing of it. This is a huge inspiration to me. This is like one of NASA's, experimental aircraft here. It has landing skids because the test area was the dry lake, desert areas. But this looks very similar, I guess, to what we have, but not quite. And the boom here at the back supports a vertical stabilizer, right? So that's to get clear, fresh airflow from under the wings. It flows over at high angles of attack, provides stability, right? This aircraft also has wingtips, like these little winglets, but we don't really have those, but it's kind of the general idea here. It looks really clean. This is pretty inspirational to me, so I don't know. Just thought I'd let you guys see this. This inner bit here, if you ignore the canards and the sharp nose, this kind of looks like an X-47B. It's like a little drone within a airplane, something like that. But it's a pretty cool design. It's worth reading up about. It's quite interesting. So it even has like thrust vectoring here, which I'm learning for the first time. Actually, I've never seen this photo before, but 2D thrust vectoring, so you could point your nozzles up and down to get extra maneuverability. I think it's at the Smithsonian Museum or something. This landing gear. This boom and tail fin and thing like that. So I think the way this is, I'm not sure how the landing gear are stowed, but it's a very interesting design. So this is what this is. Let's see, fiberglass, graphite, fiberglass, composite materials. I haven't actually read these, but because it's NASA's research, so it's all free to read about and look at. This is very interesting. Highly maneuverable aircraft technology. So you essentially stick on all the control surfaces. You got your canards, your vertical stabilizer behind. Appropriate development. It just looks really cool. I just really like it. I think they stow the landing gear in this like little area here. You see like panel gaps and everything. I don't think it's attached on the fuselage, right? So if you look at the cross section here, or the drawing, the landing gear are attached to the thing, the pylon, or I don't know, it's like a little nacelle there. I find that very clean, right? So you have your vertical stabilizer and landing gear in one line, in one vertical plane here, or region, right? So that's kind of what we kind of did with the Astra, right? So if we could show you a drawing here. This was the original design intent, was this kind of configuration here. Oh, sorry about that. Just zoom in a little bit. So this is kind of the overall design of the vertical stabilizer. Notice that I drew in these fillets because I didn't really know how it was going to be integrated at the time. Just wanted to make it look nice. But this is kind of what it is, and this is what it is on the bottom, right? But it's clearly different now. It's more defined than that. But yeah, that was kind of another inspiration, right? Early NASA prototypes, aircraft like that, experimental aircraft. And let's get back to our project here. Sorry about that little tangent. I thought it was worth talking through, showing you guys some of the real life inspirations here. They have vertical stabilizer and landing gear fairing aligned all in one, and it's looking nice. We'll say like this is kind of hard to design, like a fairing that goes around this thing, because it's quite a 3D feature, and we're using paper which doesn't like to fold in multiple directions. Like I've said many times before, it just it's definitely not an ideal material to create like compound curvatures. Sheet metal is actually easier to make into like these weird free-form shapes, because it's a ductile material, so it likes to keep its shape like a certain way, and it's not really limited by bending in multiple directions. But I think this is gonna look nice. So I think I want it to like go out a little bit, right? So this is where the fairing is going to start. It's going to start at this leading edge, It's going to go like that. It's going to go out a little bit to cover that, yeah, this is an interesting design. Let's see here. So starting there. I'll probably need like multiple fairings to make this work. But this is kind of where we want it to come forward. And there we go. Like that. And then you need a vertical area here. And this is kind of hard to work with, but let's see. You can copy that shape onto the other side. Just need a rough shape. This is a fairing, so it's not going to be like super geometrically precise anyway. So we'll just try and replicate the general feel here. Try and align this on the other side here. So this is kind of where it is, right? So that's kind of the edge there. And using the semi-transparent, translucent material properties here to really define what we need. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to test it out and make adjustments. I don't think this is best idea maybe, but just worry about the front end right now, not even the back end. And we need to cut away some of this. Oof. Just make it fit better. And this is where the art comes into play, not necessarily the engineering. So this is like not very precise, right? And I mean, I'm sure like with CAD and stuff, you should be able to like sheet metal define what it looks like, but it's a hobby, so just taking things a little easier, less intense, but still quite rigorous, I would say. We're definitely going to need another second part of the fairing to get the backside looking all smooth. Just trying to get this part going here. Trying to use the most material here as we can. I don't know how to align this to get the most use. I think if we do that, then can't really. Yeah, I guess that's good alignment there, relatively speaking, and a little bit more lead. There we go. So we have one of our panel pieces done. It's supposed to fit right about here. Let's see how it does. Kind of pre-bend this curvature a little bit to help it fit in place a little better. And that looks okay. Okay, so we are going to replicate this for the other side. Just trying to see if I have any gray cardstock scrap left over. I guess not. Okay. I'm gonna use this template again. Hopefully extract the most use out of this paper. Just gonna move this to the side, up a little bit. Let's move things out of the way so I get more arm space. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so I think we have the shape down, and I'm just gonna cut this out. I'll just separate it real quick so that I can cut it a little easier. Should be the exact same parts, but let's see here. I think this is a line like that to the right side. I'll just label that right side, the inside, and then this is the left side. Okay, here comes the fun part of actually forming this fairing around. Okay, so we're going a little bit over today, but I think this is worth it. Show you guys how to panel. This should be pretty interesting. Let's see here, align the tip. Then comes the part where I have to secure the other edges here. Oh, all right. That's not good. So just holding it like that. Tightly binding that tape over the edge there. So we probably need a piece of tape that long. Just grab that real quick. Just gonna trim this tape a little bit so that it doesn't overflow onto the leading edge flaps. It's a delicate procedure. This whole thing has been delicate. I don't want to move the vertical stabilizers, but I do need to attach this fairing quite securely. So I think we might have to cut the fairing a little bit, but this is going to be kind of sketchy. What I want to do is cut this a little bit so that I can relieve this panel a little bit so that it can go down and be closer to the boom where we're attaching the vertical stabilizers. this inner edge, I should probably do that too. Just get a little square piece like that. This is actually, it's probably where I need to cut as well. This is quite tricky, to be honest. I think I'm gonna rip this off real quick just to realign the fairing a little tiny bit. Sorry, this is like not very professional, but that's done. So this corner is here, that corner is at the tip there, so that's all lined up. So now we can secure this down. And then I'm going to cut this. This is really going to be an eyeball job, unfortunately, but special circumstance, I suppose. This is going to be as deep as this little corner here. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. Okay, now that should allow us to more closely mold that to the boom, which I think we're able to do. I'll take another square piece here. Get there, and keep the vertical stabilizer angle correct and secure that down. I think I'm going to do the same on the other side, actually. Center to the root of the fillet. There we go. Yeah, I'm going very late today, so if you guys have to leave, feel free. I am just trying to make as much progress as I can here. Definitely probably going to need another fairing here just to smooth things out. But otherwise, this is looking quite nice. It's a very smooth integration. There's that little kind of curve from the front here, right? That little notch, that little dip, and then it comes back out. That looks nice. Let's see if I remember all those steps for the other side. I do want to finish this up. today, so let's see here. Flat edge first, right? Grab a length of tape like that. Get it attached here. And minor piece like that. This is gonna fit right here. Probably give it a little bit more curvature first to better prepare it for aircraft integration. So line the tip to the tip here. Make these cuts early for this side. Coming together, almost there, almost there. So, apologies about that. This is not well thought out. Okay. Slides down the middle. Okay. So this is going to be a little bit interesting getting this to, I just turned it 360 for no reason, but sometimes you need to fool around with it a little bit to kind of get a feel for how everything's going to fit together. And then for this side, just going to lift that up, really bend that piece down. 2 square pieces for the back, right? That's what we did for the other side. Definitely gonna need a second part to the fairing, which I might do off stream, but I'll keep you guys posted in the live streams of the progress of this aircraft here. This is looking quite nice. That's kind of how it looks right now. This is coming together. I think I need maybe one more piece here to really secure everything, or maybe 2, not sure. Just look at this and give it a shot to square on the other side as well. This is getting really reinforced and it's getting heavy. Well, it's already heavy, so let's sorry, my hand is blocking the view. Definitely need another set of fairings back here to really smooth things out once and for all. But damn, that looks pretty good. Pretty good to me, at least. Look at that. Right? That's amazing. I think this is honestly the best looking thing that I've made so far. It looks a little strange with the vertical stabilizers, but that's because we're just getting used to looking at the plane with vertical stabilizers now. But I do need to keep on working on this a little bit more, but I won't do that necessarily on live stream. I just need to really get some of the final fairing work done here at the back to clean this up a little bit, and then maybe some extra panels on the fuselage to help clean up the tape, because there's a lot of tape right here. You can see from the top, so many tape lines, so I might just do another reinforcement layer of cardstock here to like smooth things out. It's gonna be really heavy duty, but I think it'll be good. Same story for the bottom, a little more paneling work to smooth things out a little bit more, make things more aesthetically pleasing. And also I do need to install kind of a little handle on the bottom, because I do intend for this to be a flying model, so I do need some sort of attachment so that I can grab onto it. But this is looking really good. This is honestly my favorite project that I've worked on so far. It looks quite nice. I mean, look at that. It's with a little bit more attention to detail and paneling work, I think this will look absolutely clean. Like, it'll look really great. This, again, this like little bump area here where we kind of integrated the vertical stabilizer with the boom. I think this is a very clean integration. It looks pretty good. for a first time design. This is the first time I'm doing this, but I think it turned out quite nice. Only thing left to do is fairing, cover this, smooth things out here, smooth things out. Just tiny detailing work that I need to really work on before this thing is ready for like a rollout or official video or whatever. But this is coming together quite nicely, and I don't know what else to say. It looks very nice. I'm very proud of this. It's not perfect, I do agree with that, but for what it is, I think for the amount of effort that we put in it, it's a pretty good outcome. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I'm over 2.5 hours now, but we made some really good progress today. I just have to do a little bit more before this project is done, like completely done. And that work mostly involves cosmetic and aerodynamic just adjustments, right? Like adding a little bit more, just smoothing out this area here. It looks kind of janky right now, but we'll work on that. We'll do some upper fuselage paneling work in addition to the fairing, and we'll do a little bit more lower fuselage work in the front, smooth things out a little bit more there, and also build a handle here. So paneling work for the top and bottom, fairing work for the top, and a handle for the bottom. So that's it. After that, this project is done, complete, and then we just need to finish up the surface with some tape to make it weather sealed a little bit more, and then after it's been a little bit more reinforced, weather sealed, it should be all set to go. There's also pieces that are small, but I need to attach, like the wingtip closure white cardstock piece, maybe like a little fairing here to connect the little right angle edge here, just a little bit better. I could put my logo on one of these panels or something so that it's like kind of subtle, but it's there. And yeah, just overall some detailing work that I'm probably going to finish off camera, but I'll keep you guys updated next time and see what we do. If next time I'm done with this plane, which I doubt because there's still a lot of detailing work to be done, if I'm done, I'll start another project. I don't know what. I'll have to think about that, but it's looking quite good. I might do an M2 immediately after, but I don't know, I might be like tired of this project and want to do something new at that point. So who knows? We'll find out eventually, I guess. I'll just decide to do something, I suppose, and it'll be all good. So again, thanks for watching. This is, I'm going over today by a lot, 2 hours and 40 minutes. That's about as long as, I think that's the longest stream that I've done so far, but we made some really good progress today. We finished integrating the vertical stabilizers completely. Just a little bit more to do, and I'll do that off camera. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned, right? I'll be doing my next stream on this coming Friday, or I don't know, just stay tuned, set a bell notification for my channel, and we'll see when I stream next. So again, thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me that there's people out there who actually get something out of this, even though it's like a pretty niche hobby. It's not necessarily like as popular as RC, or it's not as popular as like traditional paper airplanes. It's somewhere in between, but I'm glad there are people watching and getting something out of it. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you guys on Friday or whenever I stream next, which hopefully, I'm definitely going to do the scheduled stream this coming Friday, but who knows, I might do something in between because I don't know. But yeah, thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you next time.